So you're a QB guy, the QZ and the QB and the QZ.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
of
yeah.
course.
I
Sorry,
like
gotta
that.
get the right order. So I do want to talk to you about the top quarterbacks. Like what order you would have them in. I'm seeing a lot of the big boards, including from Connor Rogers at NBC Sports, that have Cam Ward as the top quarterback available, Shedeur as number 2, and then there's a big drop off. And you can talk about it's probably Jackson Dart in that 3 spot, QB3
Yes.
spot. So how do you see them? Is there a debate between Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders? Do you agree that you would go that order? Like, how do you evaluate these top guys?
So with Shedeur Sanders, I'd say this about him. He's been in a pro-style offense with Pat Shermer for a few years, right? He sees the field really well. He is deadly accurate on the short to intermediate passing game. He does throw a good deep ball. He's got enough mobility to step up in the pocket and make some plays with his legs, but that's really not what he wants to be. He wants to be a pocket passer. But when you watch him on film, I love the fact that he's constantly making checks. And then at the same time, he's throwing guys open. And what I mean by that, he throws with great anticipation. He sees the field well. So I think he's got all those traits. The one characteristic that I love about Shedeur is his toughness. You saw it 2 years ago. He got sacked 56 times. We saw him this year in Nebraska where he's just getting pummeled, but he just keeps getting back up. And even though he was under constant pressure and constant duress throughout the course of the game, he'll stand in there and make the throw. And that's something that can't really be taught. So I think Shedeur Sanders would be at the top of my list. Now, not by a wide margin by any means. And then you go to Cam Ward. And Cam Ward, to me, I just love his story and the evolution and maturation process of him, right? Not a highly recruited, went to JC, goes to Washington State, comes to Miami, and you saw the season that he put together as a Heisman Trophy candidate this year. I think some of his best traits, he's got an elastic arm. He whips the ball around the field, but those deeper intermediate crossing routes, the deep balls, he throws with tremendous accuracy. And he also has the next level in terms of his mobility to make plays with his legs. And the thing that he's a natural improviser, right? He has those eyes in the back of your head, whatever it is, where he gets outside the pocket, keeps his eyes downfield, unfazed by the moment, and makes those wow plays. Now, I'd say the only knock on him is that sometimes he tries to fit it into tight windows, and those windows will change. But all these guys will go through that growing process when they get to the NFL. But Cam Ward, I think his ceiling, just watching him grow each and every year, could be potentially higher than what Shedeur's is.
Yeah, I think I agree with that too, because, like you said, the wow moments, the keeping plays alive, he does make mistakes. That's kind of the full Cam Ward experience. Like he had it everywhere he played, Washington State and then Miami, where you'd be like, okay, it's a close game, crazy game. Like he's either going to make some spectacular jaw-dropping play or it's going to be like a bad throw and an interception.
Yeah. Don't do that.
Have some of that. Yeah, like no, yes, right? Like it's going to be those types of plays.
Right.
But I agree. And so I ultimately, again, seeing and hearing from NFL folks that kind of have it in the Cam then Shedeur order makes me think that might be the way that they're thinking as well, in terms of ceiling. But it's going to be really interesting to see coming out of all of this. And also just, again, like kind of the way that you were talking about leadership, the way that you handle different situations, because Colorado was the most scrutinized team in the country for 2 years. Right. Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter endured that and dealt with that. Everything that they've said for 2 years has been picked apart. They have been extremely confident. They have said a lot of things, but they did back it up, right? We saw that improvement from year 1 to year 2. And like you said about the Shedeur Sanders toughness with an offensive line, that was not great. That's really going to tell you something too. So I'm interested in that. Are there any other quarterbacks? Because again, you got guys like Jalen Milroe. We haven't even talked about him. Will Howard. There's some other quarterbacks in the mix. Anyone that you particularly like, even if they're not necessarily going to be one of the top guys off the board?
Well, I mean, to me, Jackson Dart is the next guy up, and he'll probably make a case just when he goes to the combine because he's impressive. He was under Lane Kiffin for the last 4 years, played a lot of football, and he's another guy. You want to see these guys get better and correct their mistakes. And when you look at this season, he threw 6 interceptions. He had some turnover issues the year before, right? And so what did he do? He worked hard on it. And if you can dedicate yourself to your craft and can become exponentially better in one area, and that was a particular area for him because he's a true dual threat quarterback. And when you watch him play, he's got a quick release. He will stand in there when he's getting hit in his face, but stand tall in the pocket and deliver the ball. He can make all the throws. So there's a lot of good qualities about him, both physically and from a mental standpoint, that you really like about Jackson Dart, that he could put himself in that conversation as well, because there's not that separation factor that we've seen maybe in other draft classes, that you really have your top three, and then you get to the guys like your Quinn Ewers of the world. Also, a guy that played a lot of football, probably doesn't have the strongest arm, but you can see he's got tremendous talent around him. He can throw the ball accurately. He's been in a lot of big games, played against really good competition, and so he's a guy that you look at as well. Jalen Milroe, that's the one that you sit there and go, this guy might be the best athlete coming out this year, straight up. Now, are there parts of his game that you still want to see improve, particularly short to intermediate passing game, accuracy, seeing the defense, processing as quickly as possible? But to talk about a guy that can change the game with his legs and his arms, he can make every big-time throw. He can do all those things. I think it's also a process of looking at him. He hasn't played a ton of football, right? And so some of these other guys that have been in college for 4 or 5 years, it's different than what you're looking at when it's an unfinished product with Jalen Milroe.
I also think too, when you look at like where the NFL is with the quarterbacks, a lot of those guys last year played and were significant pieces of their teams. And like, that's something that's really shifted. Like even from, when you were going through the draft process to now, which is like if you have a first round quarterback, you're expected to play them pretty soon, which doesn't necessarily bode well. Like we saw, some of these guys get thrown into situations and teams that are like drafting early for a reason, right? So they don't have great offensive lines, or they have coaching changes, and they get put in situations or systems that don't necessarily play to their strengths. So it's really interesting because like last year, you felt like all these quarterbacks hit, right? Like everybody was good. They were put into good situations. Obviously, JJ McCarthy had the injury, but you feel good about him as an NFL prospect. That's what's really interesting about like this draft class coming on the heels of that one and the impact that they were able to have. Do you approach the teams that need quarterbacks? Do they go for those top guys this year? Do they possibly trade up to get them? Or do you wait for another cycle or look for guys that could provide depth in the quarterback room? It's going to be really interesting to see how that approaches with a totally like different draft class at that position from a year ago, where we saw that run on quarterbacks in the first round because everyone's like, I got to get one of these guys before they're not available anymore.
Right. I mean, when you look at last year's draft, class from Caleb Williams to Drake May to Jaden Daniels had the best rookie season of any quarterback of all time. Bo Nix to what he did up in Denver. Michael Penix got his opportunity late, but you could see immediately that he's going to be an impact player for that franchise. So these guys, one, had played a lot of football. Number two, they were above and beyond what you'd expect every year in, year out. So how do these guys and the evaluators go from last year's draft class, and then comparatively speaking, would you put a Shedeur Sanders or a Cam Ward or a Jackson Dart if they came out in the same year, right? Would they have the same first round grade that we're talking about potentially for these guys? And so I think the toughest decision for any organization is, do we reach because we have a need right now, knowing that this guy might not be ready right now, and put him out on the field in those type of circumstances that you just said? Or do we wait and see if we can get him later in the first round, trade back in, or even early in the second round for some of these guys and see if they're still there? Because at the end of the day, anytime you're drafting in the first, and particularly the first 10, you want impactful players right away. Whether it's an Abdul Carter, somebody that can literally get off the bus and you go plug and play right now. And so the quarterback position, you never know how they're going to develop, in particular when you get to the NFL, because it's got to be a system fit, how they mesh with the coaches, what are the surrounding pieces around them. We saw Drake May have success this year, but again, that was with an offensive personnel that was lacking, particularly at the tackle position, at the wide receiver position. They had no alphas on the outside. If they surround them with more talent, I just dropped my earpiece. If they surround them with more talent, what happens now, right? So I don't know what it's going to look like for these guys, and how many of these teams that are in the market, particularly early in the draft, are going to take that and run with it and say, hey, we have a need. We think that this guy, and believe that he deserves to be the third overall, the second overall, whatever it might be.
Are you surprised that Travis Hunter is going to the combine as a cornerback, not a receiver?
No, I always thought that he would be a cornerback, honestly. When you watch him play the cornerback position, it's just such a natural feel. He's got great ball skills. He jumps route. He recognizes route patterns, which was one of the biggest things. He understands leverage, and he's got the makeup speed. And I always deemed him as a guy that would come out as a number one corner. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't see him playing snaps, more significant snaps than some of these other guys that we've seen over the years, because he can play snaps at the wide receiver position. But I think that you would have to take that Rolodex and really minimize it to certain routes that he does well, because it would be difficult. I think
he's going to want to, though, right? Don't you think that when he's in those meetings, he's going to ask who to do it?
Right. And I think that it might be small to start, and then as he proves himself, and also that it won't impact him on the defensive side of the ball, because at the end of the day, you need a dude out there at the number one cornerback position. If you're going to be the shutdown corner, there's enough good guys across the league that you're going to be covering the best every single week. That can you make that transition, come back over, not get banged up, all those different things, and still be available? Because, again, the league is a little bit different. The men are a little bit bigger. They're a little bit faster, playing against the best of the best.
Watch the new NBC Sports Now channel. Enjoy sports talk covering the biggest stories, plus events and highlights. Available on Peacock, Roku channel, Samsung TV Plus, and more. Visit NBCSports.com/now for details.